Hey everyone, we're both kind of coming in hot. I was actually here early, but in another little snafu, my microphone wasn't working. So here we are, though. We're back. JB actually did come in hot. I mean, literally,
Literally.
yeah. Like the chair still has. Well, I was
Don't
gonna say.
worry, we're all here.
Oh, Chad, where is he tonight?
That's the most intelligent thing he's ever said.
I love it.
I agree.
Well, hey everyone. On behalf of DINKs, I'm Chad Duplantis, and we'd like to welcome you to Dentists in the Know, to Humpday Happy Hour. This is your backstage pass for current trends. Move his head like he's talking, JB.
Okay.
This is your pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It's live, by the way, and it's over one of them hot Texan cocktails. I love it. He drinks. Virtual Chad drinks.
Yeah, of course
Anyway,
he does.
Where is Chad tonight? I have been. I've been.
It looks so. The size is right.
It actually works.
It's working really well for me.
Hey, is that head really small or is that glass really big?
I'll never tell.
You must be drinking out of a big glass. Hey, so we're missing Chad tonight.
I have you as a backup as well.
Yep. You know what though? Something happened. It has a crease and it looks like I have a big vein.
No,
running
I know
up
it's
my
that head.
Yeah.
A non-sponsored content here. It's how they stitch it on when you do the cutout of the head. And when you're doing it on a podcast, you can really see the defects. And look at this, how they gave you your wispy hair at the end.
I know.
It looks kind of weird.
I'm very attracted to it.
I think you should be. Look at that tan.
Yeah. Donald Trump ain't got nothing on me.
Nothing. Not one thing.
So, guys, it's JB and I tonight. Chad is on the road, and we're missing you, buddy. But we have a really cool show ahead of you. We just decided that some of our best shows are when we kind of reveal ourselves and kind of let you all know that, hey, we may be in the know, but we have sure made our share of mistakes. And still do on a daily basis. And so we're not here to talk down to anybody or talk at anybody or say we're better dentists. We just want to share what we've learned through our mistakes, which I think is one of the greatest teachers in the world. But anyway, happy to be here with you, JB. We're going to do a really cool show, just some banter between JB and I about some of our biggest mistakes in practice. So before we get going and do some news, how was your week? What have you had going on?
You know, it's been fine. So we had terrible weather last week. So, you know, it was just really nice to actually have a few days of sunshine. So I found myself, you know, in the doldrums of winter, I'm much more inclined to stay at the office a little late, work on notes and all the things that have to get done, right? AR has been a big topic we've been working on this last 10 days. I absolutely cannot wait to get out the door. Like, I just want to get out in the sunshine and the warmth.
The door cannot catch up with your ass on the way out. Like it can't.
No.
It will not hit you.
No.
Yeah.
I'm so fast. In fact, I love my team, but I don't even say bye just in case that might encourage them to ask me a question or keep me just a little bit longer. I just kind of sneak out, you know, and then when they go to find me or look for me, I'm just not there. So I have to wait till tomorrow.
So you've dug a tunnel from your personal office.
I have dug a tunnel. I have dug a tunnel. Yes.
It's straight to the outside. No one gets to see your face on
That's
the way.
Right. That's right. That's right.
I don't blame
How about you? How's your week?
Going pretty good. It was a kind of a crazy week this week. Just it went from kind of what we were talking about, where things had been kind of slow. Well, I guess everybody showed up this week because it was kind of nuts. So, but I'm not going to complain about that at all.
That's
I
right.
mean,
And you leave tomorrow?
I leave early tomorrow. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we're going to have a team meeting tomorrow morning before I get on the plane. So and that's actually going to be one of the mistakes I'll talk about.
Great. Love it.
Is
Yeah, that's a
not
good one.
not making that investment in teams, so that traveling is not an excuse to not have your team meet. So anyway, we're gonna do that first thing tomorrow morning, and then I'm gonna jump on a plane, go out to Kansas City, and we're doing a 2-day hands-on sleep course. Kind of excited. I haven't done a 2-day course in a while, so we'll see if this old body can hold
I
up.
attended one of your 2-day sleep courses. I don't know if it's too late to register, but for me, that was life-changing for what we wanted to do with sleep in our practice. So anybody
That's
that can see your course and I mean, man, it just gets you so excited and actually so ready to go back. I felt prepared. And I think that's the big difference with sleep is that you really need courses that give you a playbook that you can go back and say, okay, here's how you're going to intake patients. Here's how we're going to talk about it. Here's how we're going to read sleep studies. Here are, here's the next XYZ of how you're going to do this in your practice and how you're going to monitor them. And because I know a lot like me, we're like, okay, great. I totally get the idea. I have nowhere to start. I don't know how to monitor. I went to school to treat teeth. So, I'm going to need some education.
Well, those are very kind words, but I have some really bad news for you. I don't think anything I taught you in the 2-day course you were at is. I mean, you know me, you know my philosophies.
Yeah.
I'm a COIS trained dentist. I'm going to be evidence based. I'm going to,
100%.
I'm going to always do what I feel like is in the best interest of the patient first. So those principles, of course, have not changed. But so many of the dynamics with regard to billing, I mean, it's been such a moving target over the years. We actually have Rose Neerman is going to zoom in for a medical billing component.
Oh, that's awesome.
Course. Yes. So I'm really excited to be working with them a little bit. And, they just do such a great job with that. So she's going to be coming in.
Awesome.
Gina Mattiello, my sleep care coordinator, is going to come in and zoom in for an hour and answer questions, for the teams that are going to be there. And just kind of give the perspective of the sleep care coordinator. And it's just laid out so differently than anything I've ever done. And we'll see how it goes over. I mean, it'll be good content, but hopefully it'll be well received.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I already know. I'm sure a lot of it has changed, but I know you as a speaker and as a person. So lives will be changed, practices will be changed this weekend for sure.
And I know you may know this, but some of my pictures were dated.
Oh, so you updated them?
Oh yeah, I've updated, baby. I mean,
whoa.
I'm going all out. Now there's still some oldies but goodies.
You gotta have like your mentor slide.
Yeah. There's some oldies but goodies, but yeah, it was definitely time for a refresh. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to take your course again.
Yeah, see that? I might let you in for free.
No.
Yes.
I'll be your entourage.
Yes. No, actually, you're going to do it with me at the next time we do it.
Yes.
You've been doing it long enough. I'm sure I could learn a lot from you at this point, even with regards to sleep. I mean, I know I can learn a lot of other stuff from you, but I know I can learn a lot from sleep as well, just because you've been at it now for a while. So let's do this. Let's do some news. And then let's get right into some of our biggest mistakes. You got anything going on this weekend?
You know what? I don't actually. It's kind of quiet, which I'm pretty pumped about. We're gearing up. The end of school is coming. So honestly, it's been a tough week. The kids have been all in their end of year testing. And my sweet Evie, who's my youngest, like a massive virus has also run rampant through their class at the same time where they feel the pressure that they need to be at school, but then they all feel like crap at the same time. So it's just been, I feel the end of the school year coming and the need for a little bit of rest. And so we're just going to lean into that a little bit and then get them through the last 5 days. And gosh, and then the world will be their oyster all summer.
I
Just,
know. I drove by from the Myrtle Beach office and, 17 was just packed and I have to pass Restaurant Row. And so, there's all these kids on go-karts and stuff. And I'm like, God, I can't remember what it felt like to just feel like I'm free for the next
be
60
on
days.
break for like permanent sabbatical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was very cool.
Absolutely.
Well, anyway, let's do some news and
Okay.
I'll drop out and then we'll come back and talk.
Sounds great. So we have two interesting news stories today, and they could not be more polar opposites. So let's start with the hard-hitting journalism first, and then we'll move on into the fun, an actually fun story about a dentist in the news this week. Well, the first story actually started to get a lot of traction in the last couple of days. It was about a Nevada Senate Bill 495, which had a very interesting provision in it regarding dental hygiene education. The bill proposed that licensed dentists or dental professionals could provide training, kind of like what we do for dental assistants with in-office training programs or other creative solutions to try to solve the dental hygiene problem. And it raised a lot of contention, obviously, and ultimately was defeated. Now, the interesting part of this story that I understand will be contentious is that the reason that these bills keep coming forward as creative solutions to trying to figure out how to solve the hygiene shortage problem is that we have a hygiene shortage problem and that currently there is no real great offer on how we're going to solve it. Increase class sizes, increase programs, increase funding, whatever it is, increase creative solutions like the Alabama program for training dental assistants who want to further their career with an in-office program. Whatever it is, we have to come together for a solution because the current pathway that we are on is not sustainable. So congratulations, Dental Hygiene Association and many others who were opposed to the bill. You got exactly what you wanted. And the population of Nevada and the US at large will continue to struggle with the fact that most dentists will tell you today they have a full-time open hygiene position that they cannot fill and a hygiene program that they cannot sustain financially. It's time to come up with a solution. It's time to come together to the table and do not leave the table until we've come up with a way to ensure that we are providing high quality care to patients at prices that we all can afford and that everybody is ultimately rowing in the same direction. Hygiene wins, dental assistants win, and dentists are able to continue to operate practices in their community to further the population's oral health. Otherwise, congratulations, corporate dentistry will own the day. In other news, much more lighthearted, a dentist is now going to be playing in the US Open. That's right. So, in the longest day in golf, they call it the day of qualifying for the US Open, there's like 10 different locations that you could go in, 10,000 people trying to get into the qualifier to be able to play at the US Open this year, which is at Oakmont in Pennsylvania. Now, the interesting thing is we have a dentist who has now qualified for that Open. Matt Voigt will be playing at Oakmont. Interestingly, as a former caddy at that club, he'll be playing in the US Open. I think this is a phenomenal story. He used to have a really close relationship with his dad, who passed just a few months ago. So he knew his dad was watching. His dad was very dialed into his game. Voigt was ranked 1,173 in the World Amateur Golf Ranking. So he's no stranger to golf for sure. He's a dentist in Indianapolis. He went and qualified at the Walla Walla Golf Club in Washington and or the Wine Valley Golf Club in Walla Walla, Washington. And now he will be playing in the 156th US Open. Is that right? Did I say that correctly? The 125th US Open. We will have a dentist out there, Matt Voigt, representing all of us. And I just think what a cool story, because so many dentists that I know have lots of side careers, obviously, or other interests or things that they really enjoy, but they also have this love and appreciation for the work that they're doing in dentistry. And how cool is it to be able to see someone who's managing to balance both? And with that, that's the news.
I loved the passion in your first segment. I
Yeah.
thought that was so great. I mean,
Thank you.
you know what? We don't have
It's
to be
going to get a lot of hate mail. You do know.
no. We don't have to be neutral. I mean, I
No.
think there are just some topics that are so obvious. Is the light changing on
It
my screen?
is.
I
Are you
feel like
having a storm?
no. I don't know
Are
what's
you
happening,
sure?
but
I'm not even being pro or con. I'm just saying this ain't working. Like
no.
the states are forced to come up with these solutions, whether you like them or not. They recognize that there is an access to care, like a legit problem. And none of the solutions, either the American Dental Association, the Dental Hygiene Association, whoever doesn't like any of the proposed things that keep coming up because they feel that their particular niche industry is getting impacted. And so what happens is we continue to not move. Like we're
Right.
not dealing with the current problem, and the problem is only getting worse. So, the more I talk to practice owners and actually other dental hygienists who recognize the challenges as well, like talked to one today who's now in an office management position, and they're down, it's a large group practice. They're down 8 full-time hygienists at this point. So, it's just not sustainable. So we have to
No.
come to the table. We need like a giant summit or something.
Yeah. And really, you're right, because ultimately who gets punished are the patients who cannot get appointments.
Right.
They literally are waiting 5 or 6 months
That's
sometimes
right.
to get
And you're
a high
canceling on them all the time.
right,
Like I
right.
have been through this, where
Yeah.
we're like, well, they didn't come in today. So we're shutting down their entire column again and trying to, and that impact trickles down to the entire team. Either the doctor absorbs half the schedule and pushes that compression on the rest of the team, or your admin is like, I'm calling a patient for the 8th time now, telling them that, they can't get in and they get yelled at and stuff. So it's just a lot that is being distributed out. So
Yeah. Hey, do you notice anything about my background?
well, you've had the dentist in the know up for a bit, yeah? But there's a
Mhm.
new, there's a new article or something up?
No, that's another
Maybe
rush
it's
thing
just
that's
a
always.
change of the focal point?
You know what I did?
What?
I found the button that lets me mirror.
So it's right-sided.
It's going the right way. I actually
This
got
is a
called out.
miracle.
Yes, last week one of my hygienists, my old hygienist, Katie, she called me up and she goes, I can make you one of those banners in reverse so that when you're when you're online, it'll look like it reads correctly." And I said, that's a thing. I wonder if there's a button for that. Sure enough, there's a button for that.
The
So
easy button?
it was. It's an easy button. So
Yeah. Well, it looks great,
anyway,
and it's good to read it right side up.
yeah, it actually kind of works. So
Yeah.
all right, let's talk about some of our biggest mistakes in practice.
Okay.
And it can be a clinical mistake. It can be, I'm thinking big picture though, like in the
Yeah.
realm of, your entire practice or your entire career, but it can be anything. And do you want to start or?
Well, I've been open. My biggest clinical mistake still to date was extracting a tooth with a hard reline.
No, God,
Yeah.
you actually got the tooth out, like fully out. Like
Yep.
it didn't get stuck and you thought you were going to extract it.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
It was an
Yeah.
acrylic partial with 2 metal clasps on 2 canines. and I did a hard reline on the bottom. I actually was doing it on the top and the bottom, and I was working hard on the top and got distracted and did not get to the bottom fast enough to like establish path of draw. And so it set, and I pushed and pushed and pushed, and finally I just gave it a little bit of bicep, and I don't have huge ones, but I just gave it a little fulcrum. And she let out a giant, and I pulled that flipper partial out, and the wrought iron clasp on 27 had a full length canine sitting inside it.
Wow.
Now, in fairness, you can't just extract a canine that has a lot of bone in an acrylic partial, but
it's hard to explain that regardless.
Correct.
and
Correct.
what was the feeling? What was that?
I almost threw up on her shoe. Like I went into full on, I feel like I was the negotiator at that point. Like if I were negotiating a terrorist or a suicide bomber out of a situation, that's exactly how I approached this. And I was like, oh, wow. Obviously that canine needed to come out if it came out in this partial. I mean, that was not going to last, but thank goodness we know that now. And you know what? I'm just going to take this partial, send it to the lab. I won't even charge you to add that tooth. Like totally behaved as though this is completely normal.
I'm going to only charge you my cost.
She brought me a plant the next day. And I was like, so half of this job is either faking it or being a really good communicator. Really good.
Either that or she just purely felt your discomfort.
Yeah, I don't know. But today I almost threw up on her shoe. Like I could not believe that I had done it. I extracted a tooth. Not only had I extracted it in a reline, I had extracted it, no anesthesia, like just full on, put a little muscle in it and out it came.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know of any dentist that hasn't locked some kind of a reline.
Yeah. In hindsight now, I know just to get a handpiece out and just cut.
Yeah. Well, and that I have had cases where literally I had to get the handpiece out and destroy the prosthesis.
100%. That's my go-to though now, because I know.
Yeah.
I had an assistant who felt really confident about doing a reline, and she said, "Oh, I've done 1,000 of these, no big deal." And I said, "Right, and to block out, and yep, got it." And I was running around doing a couple other things, and I think we've all been there where you're like, I got to lean in on this person's expertise because I actually don't really have time to do it, which was not the right decision. So I went and did my myriad of things, came back. It was locked on, but I was wiser now, and wasn't just going to brute force it out. And so I immediately picked up the handpiece, started cutting around where I thought the lock was, and ultimately, to your point, split the prosthetic in two.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather do that. But
yeah.
And there's something to be said about some generously applied KY jelly with a brush to 100%. Any surface that you don't want anything sticking to or attaching to. Plus, KY is just fun to have around the office.
It's just a good talking point. It's just good all around.
I actually heard a lecturer say that once. I laughed.
People don't even think it's weird when you get out the tube and you're like,
yeah. Why do you have the economy size?
Yeah.
Don't say anything. So if we're talking clinical, I have two things that come to mind. One was it was pretty early in my career, and I felt like I was getting pretty good with endo, and it was kind of becoming a thing where I kind of zip. I'm really good at this, which is, I always say cocky and dentistry don't go together. As the second you start saying, I got this, something is going to happen. And it was the easiest central incisor. I mean, it was such a gimme root canal.
Right.
And just got kind of moving along, flushed some hypochlorite in there. And the next thing, the whole mid face starts to bruise on
Oh
this woman.
no.
She turns black and blue from literally from her nose all across the cheek. And I mean, her lips start to swell, her face starts swelling, she's black and blue. And I'm thinking, my career is over after like 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, it was like 5 or 6 years into it. And it was a horrible hypochlorite reaction. And apparently the apex was open, and I applied too much pressure. I assume I applied too much pressure. But
Sure.
do you know what that inspired me to do? It inspired me to learn laser endo. I
Right.
got a biolaser, and I never used hypochlorite again after that.
Yep.
And it worked out okay. I didn't get sued over it, but just like you, it's one of those moments where you just got to start talking and hope what comes out works.
Yeah. And just make it right with the patient. I mean, at the end of the
exactly. Yeah,
day,
I've got you.
the mistake is done. You can't undo the mistake.
Yeah.
Don't dismiss it. Don't pretend it didn't happen.
Oh, that's nothing. The fact that you
don't worry about
hit by a train.
The fact that your face is sloughing off. It's fine. This is one of those known side effects. I don't. Maybe it wasn't in the informed consent, but it happens sometimes. No, you got to own it. And honestly, have you had your malpractice? Maybe you do this because you do a lot of witness work with other dentists who are going through malpractice suits and stuff. Like I heard for a long time early in my career, just don't say you're sorry. Just don't say you're sorry, because that's admitting guilt. And I have never subscribed to that theory. Like, sometimes you are wrong. It doesn't mean, to me, malpractice is malintent. Either doing something that you maliciously knew would hurt a person, or doing something that you really didn't have the skill or expertise to be able to do, which none of those things describe the two things that you and I just talked about. It was just an unfortunate incident of things that didn't go the way we wanted.
Go ahead.
I can look at a patient and say, I'm so sorry. This was not my intent. I didn't want this for you. It's unfortunate that it happened. We're going to make it right. Whatever we need to do, we've got great people in our network. We're going to make sure that you get the care that you need. Like, I'm okay. I'm personally okay with saying that because I do feel that way.
Yeah, no, I think it's a valid point. And I will say I'm sorry as well, but I will usually, because I had subscribed to the same thing that you hadn't been told the same thing you had. You don't want to do anything that admits you were guilty of doing something wrong. You may have had a bad consequence, but as long as there wasn't any intent, or you weren't delving into an area that you were completely not capable of handling, I will just add the words, I am so sorry this happened.
Right.
I'm so sorry that it ended up this way.
That's right.
But still, you want to show genuine empathy,
100%.
and compassion. So no, I fully agree with what you're saying. I go along with that. All right. So how about business? What would you say was your biggest business mistake?
It's a mistake that turned out okay. So I kind of want to preface that by saying that it turned out fine. But I really think, let me back up. A lot of dentists by nature go into this field, one, science, we want to care for people, we're good with our hands, that kind of thing. But there's also a good number of us that do have that entrepreneurial spirit, because a majority, at least up until maybe 5 to 10 years ago, fully understood the pathway. The career pathway was graduate from dental school, get a few licks in, and then you would own your own practice, and you would be a boss, you would manage people, you would be doing clinical dentistry. Like, it really has been a cottage industry for a long time. So many people go into this field in addition, because they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to own their own practice. And I did also feel that way. And we opened our first practice and it went really well. And we thought we'd struck lightning in a bottle. And obviously, it was a recipe card that we had mastered. And all we had to do was turn it on again and we could do it 12 more times. And I don't regret opening the second location because it has afforded us other opportunities. But I can definitely say for doctors out there that are thinking, man, this single office thing is pretty slick and it's going really well. And I'm making pretty good money off of it. And my people don't suck too much. And like my patients love me. And, and there's a new community right down the road that I probably could open up a second location. It amplifies every problem that you have by 10. It now divides your attention by 100. Whatever staffing issues you have in office 1, exponentially increase that by office 2. So the problem is I don't think that we can be clinical doctors and be these practice growers simultaneously. So the ones that I know that have been really successful have worked really diligently to peel themselves out of clinic pretty fast. And then they can divert that attention, expertise, whatever, to growing multiple series of practices, or it's a multi-partnership and they can kind of manage that. Those that have full intention of being in the trenches because they believe that they're the secret sauce to the practice growth, and then think they can replicate that and somehow make up more hours in the day that they're available to do clinic, and all of these things just sort of compound. So if I had it to do over again, at least I would be more knowledgeable about what that really looks like and what challenges would come along with that. And that just because you did it once doesn't mean that there's like this faucet you can turn on and off and everywhere you go will be equally as successful, because your time and attention is diverted now into 2 locations with 2 sets of staff, 2 types of patient populations who also want you to be their exclusive doctor, all of those challenges. And maybe your story was very similar, Jeff, but I probably would put that as our practice mistake. And it wasn't even ultimately that we opened it. It was just the naivety of what we thought it would be and what the trudge it really was.
So I would actually, you and I had very similar experiences with that. I think you actually went into a second location before I even opened up a second location. I opened up a satellite just for sleep and TMJ, but the point you make is really good, that the more you divide your attention, because let's face it, a lot of what makes you successful comes from within the business owner, right? And you found some secret sauce and you got a great team and you got everything. Yep. But the second, as you said, that you start dividing your attention between these different entities, now it's a whole different animal. And then when people realize, and I'm not suggesting that all team members are going to take advantage of someone who is not always present, because that's not the case. But when people realize, when it's your baby and it's your practice, and they know you've got your finger on the pulse, and they know if something's in the wrong drawer, it's going to get caught, and they know that if something's ordered in mass quantity when it shouldn't be, or yep. things are going bad on the shelf, they know you're going to catch it because it's your baby. And when you start dividing your team and start having to delegate more and more of those things, finding the people that are going to do that at, with the responsibility that you have, or treat it like their own practice, becomes really, really difficult. So, I felt every single thing that you did with the satellite practice, and same as you. Would I do it again? Possibly. Would I have waited and done it differently if I had the opportunity? Absolutely. I would have had more infrastructure in place for overseeing all the systems the way that I did in my primary practice. So, yeah, I think that's a great point. The other, one of the things I would say, and it's as much a life mistake probably as it is a practice mistake, is this worked out well for you. You went into a partnership with someone who was a dear and close friend before that you pretty much knew all the good and all the bad about.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, I'm putting myself in this boat, are sometimes very quick to jump into a partnership arrangement when, you know, um, probably ought to give that a little more due diligence before jumping in that boat. And that was probably my biggest mistake in practice is I did get into a partnership and invited someone to be my partner that it didn't work out well at all. And I was very surprised at some of the actions. I was very disappointed. But it's really easy sometimes for some of us to just put blind trust in other people and think that everyone else, is going to look at things the same way that we do. So, what I would caution everybody is don't, just because it sounds good, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be. Getting into a partnership is really easy. Getting out of a partnership is really difficult and really expensive for all parties.
Mhm.
So it's something that I would really, really get to know the person on a deep level before I got into a business partnership again.
I think that's it's a marriage, and I don't think people really appreciate, it's easy to get married. You can go to Vegas, right? Anytime and go ahead
Mhm.
and hitch that down. But to your point, unraveling that from a legal perspective and whose money is whose and, all of that stuff, like it's way more difficult to undo than it is to get in. So, one of the things that I think was really successful about our partnership was that we went to residency together. So we had a long time to get to know one another. And in that time, we learned a lot about each other's business philosophies, personal philosophies, and clinic philosophies. We talked about a lot of stuff we kept kind of coming back to the same viewpoint. Oh, yeah, I would have taken care of the patient the same way. Oh, yeah, I would want to run my practice the same way. Oh, yeah, I manage my own personal finances the same way. So we kept coming back to this true north. Um,
Mhm.
and then it made sense then for us to go into partnership together. And that's been a really successful relationship for us. But that was because our true north kept being the same. And I think if you're afforded that opportunity, if you can really get to know someone in that level of intimacy to know if this is going to be a sustainable, it doesn't mean it won't be hard. It won't have its challenges because business and money always make things exponentially. It's the number one reason why people get divorced, right? Is because of money, is that and sleeping with their hygienist. But anyway, um, wait,
Actually, I had a dental.
right, Chad? Okay. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It was a joke. It was a joke. It's a joke. Anyway, so if you can vet that as best as you can beforehand and truly have like a dating period to figure that out, and a constant check-in to make sure it's still like dating each other throughout the marriage as well to make sure that that's going well, um, is really important.
Yeah, I think that is the it's huge. So was what was your biggest flounder? And I know I'm throwing this at you. We each
You're
kind of
good.
made
I'm
our own
ready.
little list. Yeah. What would you say was your biggest error as an employer, as a boss?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought this up because I was just thinking my biggest mistake as an employer was not going with my gut every time. every time a staff member came in, potential staff member or an existing staff member, and my gut told me something wasn't 100% right, or on paper they looked fantastic, but there was something about their personality that was a little bit rubby, or just you're like, well, they're a little bit of this, but gosh, on paper, like they're going to be able to do this, 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 and this, and this. So, I think we would be a fool to turn away somebody with that type of credential. 9 times out of 9, we were right for us. And it's not that that person's a good person or a bad person. It's just, your philosophy, how you practice, what fits well for you, and honestly, personalities. I know a lot of practices do personality tests before they hire, and I think that would be really helpful if we had choices. I hate to say that, but like right now, you can personality test everybody, but when you only have 2 candidates for a job on any given day, you're like, in an ideal world, I'd love to have choices. But because even though a person may be an amazing human and might do a fantastic job clinically or whatever, they're not a good personality gel for you. Like, you don't physically enjoy them and they don't physically enjoy you or emotionally enjoy you, or like, it's just not a good fit. So for me as an employer, 100% of the time, it was that we knew something was going on. We knew there was an issue, or that we shouldn't hire someone, but there was business compression on us that forced us into a decision that we immediately regretted, in a reasonable short period of time.
Right. And and I think we've all made bad decisions in hiring. Well, for me that's true.
Yeah.
But one of the things that has helped me, and again, this is not like I've always done this my whole career. I mean, like literally, I've evolved to this point now where when we do interviews, one of the most important things that I think as part of the interview process for me is I lay my shortcomings on the table right then and there. Like when they come in,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you that I am disorganized.
Right.
Right. Now, when I get in there and I'm on the tooth or I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I am ultra focused. Do not hit me with anything else. Do not, right? But I am not organized. If I ask you to organize something, can you do it? If I tell you I need this put in order, I am going to lean on you. You tell me if you can do that.
Yeah.
And then I want you to tell me what your shortcomings are. If they can't come up with any shortcomings or it's an automatic no. When they say I can do all this, it's a yes. But I think the first step in all of that is realizing what you need in an employee in a particular position and being vulnerable enough to say, here's where maybe I haven't done a great job and here's what I need to be a better clinician. Are you capable of this, or is this a strong point for you? And great if it is. If it's not, maybe we could talk about another position. I appreciate you saying it, but then tell me, what are your shortcomings so I can help make your job easier, help complement you. And if they can't come up with an answer about their own shortcomings, it's over there. I mean, even if they're the only candidate, I'm going to keep looking regardless. So I think my biggest mistake as a boss is, and I've done this twice that I'm aware of, was holding a bad employee for way too long.
Too long.
Just because I was so worried of what would happen when I got rid of them. The first one was a hygienist that was very, very deeply rooted in the community. And not, she wasn't a bad person or anything like that. It's just, she wasn't good with the team. It just didn't work. And everything kind of always worked out that she was the common denominator. And I knew it, but I was so worried about, what's the community going to say? Because, I'm the newcomer to the community, and she's deeply rooted in the, and has been here for a long time. And, what's going to happen with that? And literally what ends up happening when you hold a bad employee for too long is your good employees start to lose respect for you.
That's right.
And it's almost like punishing the good behavior. And so I did that twice, actually. I thought I learned that lesson and did it again later in my career one time, where I knew who the common denominator was, and yet was so worried about the repercussions and the hard work that was going to have to be put in to fill this particular position and do it well, that I let what was easy go on for
Yeah,
way too long. So that's definitely my biggest
100%.
flaws boss. Yeah.
Well, and
Okay.
it's never easy for confrontation. And so the things that I want to highlight from this conversation, especially for our young entrepreneurs and maybe some of our established practices, honestly, we learn so much from each other all the time. But um, when you and I said, like, wish we had gone with our gut or fired an employee that we knew was cancerous, but I feel like there's always that economic compression too. Like, well, if I fire them, then that's going to create this vacancy, which is then going to immediately affect production, immediately affect our profitability, which for dentists, 100% impacts their paycheck, 100%, but also impacts your patients. And if they call and they can't get in, like there's this whole trickle down effect, right? And so all I would say is that one of the ways that you can stave off some of that economic compression is to make sure that you're operating your practice within your economic means and you're living your life within your economic means, that you're not living beyond what you can afford, which will force you to continue to tolerate nonsense, bad employees, and all the other things because you can't financially afford to let them go. You can't take a hit on your paycheck. You can't take a hit on the profitability. You've got multiple mortgages, huge dental school loans. You're operating outside of your means in your private life as well. Like there's no wiggle room for the ebb and flow of a natural practice for you to say, you know what? This practice be damned, you got to go.
Yeah.
Like we're done here, right? And so speaking from experience and all of what I'm saying, because you only understand what you've lived through, like operating and living within your means, both professionally and personally, gives you a tremendous amount of freedom to be able to build the type of practice that you want and keep the type of people that you want to work with. And again, it doesn't mean that the people who don't fit in your practice are bad people. It just means it's not a good fit for you and it's not a good fit for
That's
the
right.
thing that you're building. And, and honestly, it's better for them too to find a place where their skill sets, personality, nuances, shortcomings, whatever it happens to be, can be better honed in and like appreciated and valued. So,
All great points. And really, so bringing this full circle, I would say as the common thing, the common theme for all of this is that in practice, we all need to be present. And I think
mhm.
that goes back to the point of
Yeah.
starting a satellite practice, starting, jumping into another area, buying a car wash,
Yeah.
deciding, you want to become a restaurant operator, whatever it is. Um, I think the only things that ever end up being successful are those things that we are truly present for. Once
Correct.
we relinquish, you know, uh, any amount of responsibility or any amount of, and I'm not saying you can't find the right people, but you need to have those people in place before you go into these other endeavors. You need to have that trusted soul that already treats your business like family. You have to be willing to say, this practice does so well with you, and you have grown. I have something else I'd like to get into. Are you comfortable with being my eyes
Right.
and doing things that way? But I think that applies. I think it applies to marriage. I think it applies to everything, that we all just have an obligation in whatever we do, to be present.
Wait, do you
And
have a proxy husband for Jenny now?
exactly.
You're my eyes and ears on the ground here, okay? I got other things I need to do.
I'm telling you, there are 1,000 people in my life that are now saying lightning is going to strike. I am not speaking from the person who has done that well my whole life. That this is speaking from the
I'm sweating.
yeah, from the perspective of some
I know.
regrets. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I would have done differently, if I could do it all over again. And but anyway, that's kind of my goal here, is to just be more present at everything that I'm
Yes. But why
doing.
does
And
it take us so damn long to figure that out?
I don't know, but sometimes it's just a matter of learning how to say no too, so
Yeah.
you can you can keep those responsibilities actually manageable,
Right.
you know? So
100%.
great episode. I loved it.
Yeah. It's raw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just us. We're both sweating a little bit.
Yeah.
Me more
Also,
than you.
can I add another mistake? Having too many
Please, yes.
people consulting me at the same time. Like I I have a little bit of a challenge with consultants anyway because they're really great at telling you the ones I've worked with, I can't speak to all. Really good at telling you what's not going well, like from a financial perspective, but not super helpful at really understanding your practice well enough to help you find the opportunity in that. And so you're just sort of boggled with all these things that you're thinking about. And at one point, I had multiple consultants helping me in various parts of the practice because we were still really young. And our this is going to sound super whiny, but our first practice was so successful right out the gate, and it was simply because we were in the right place at the right time. This was an up and coming growing area, tons of new people moving in. We were the only office in that particular area, so we grew lightning fast, faster than we were ready for, frankly, or that
Mm,
we even, having never owned a practice before, faster than we knew what to do with going from 2 employees to 10, going from, 100 patients to 15,000. Like the speed at which it was moving was faster than we could keep up. So we had people coming in helping us train our clinical team to get them on, like, what does that look like to actually run them through a clinical training program to make sure everybody can do what we think they can do? And what does it look like from an operations standpoint if we have a consultant helping to make sure all of our systems and policies were in place? And like, we had so many people barking in our ear constantly. They're all really good people. They're actually really solid humans with great ideas. We were in a spot where we were so overwhelmed, onboarding so many employees, onboarding CPAs, onboarding attorneys, onboarding a myriad of employees, onboarding 12 new patients a week, like, just onboarding. And
yeah.
so we couldn't give our attention enough to any of them. And we both looked at each other at one point. We're like, we were so just beyond overwhelmed. We'd brought in CIREC, we brought in lasers, we brought in scanning technology, CBCT, um, 15 employees, new CPAs, lawyers, attorneys, all the things. And we were just so completely overwhelmed. And that was 2 of us. I can't even imagine what it feels like practicing alone. So, um, you know, I, I do lecture about this now in hindsight, like a very strategic plan of onboarding, and that you almost control your growth to some extent, which seems very counterintuitive, but because you can only go as fast as you can comprehend and provide operational solutions to solve. So, it means controlling the front door. It means controlling the number of people you employ. It means controlling the investments you're making in your technology. It just means having some type of governor on things to say, okay, I've mastered this. I get it. Or master is probably a strong word, but like understand it. I'm in a good spot. I'm ready to absorb my next new challenge, and then sort of feed your entrepreneurial spirit that way, as opposed to opening maybe a second practice. But like, keep that piece in mind, because it almost forced us out of dentistry really early, because we were so overwhelmed by the mountain of things that we were managing and trying to understand and comprehend at the same time.
Yeah, that and managing families at the same time.
Oh yeah, and had 3 kids all
Yeah,
in that span of time. So
just a
maybe
little.
I was just sleep deprived. It would have been totally easy had I had sleep. I would have been like, "Oh yeah, no problem. I could do that tomorrow. No problem."
So
But I've
yeah,
had
and
1 hour of sleep, so no.
part of that that onboarding process goes with learning how to delegate properly
Yeah,
is such an important role of a good leader. And where I used to always try to be the one who was overseeing the onboarding of whatever it was, I really learned. I mean, or as well as this brain can comprehend systems, that was something that John Coyce really instilled in me. And I developed this, this habit at CE, while I was at the Coyce Center. Is I had 3 lists going, pen and paper, not it,
right,
and it was things I need to consider buying, um, things I need to consider doing in practice, but the most important thing was the who is going to be responsible for overseeing it in the practice. And if I couldn't come up with somebody that would help me oversee it or take that task on, and a lot of times
right,
I would text them directly from the course while I was sitting there and say, okay, want to bring on carry free, and I'd text one of my hygienists and I said, I want to bring on carry free. Would you be comfortable in taking this project on, getting all the literature, getting, starting to develop some talking points to our patients and how we're going to implement this. And I started doing that in courses because, like you, I was just the ready, fire, aim. Oh, that sounds good. Let's do that. That
correct,
sounds great. Let's do that. And it was just always the next best thing. And that's an entrepreneurial spirit. But again, there's big companies have a CEO, they have a COO, they have a CFO, and everybody kind of stays in their lane and knows who they need to delegate to. And we need to, even though we're smaller businesses, we need to really think of ourselves in that way, that there's no way we can flip the burgers and run the cash register and
right,
oversee, that all the money is there and being deposited in the bank. We can't be all things to all people. So we have to find those right team members to really delegate things to, and learn how to onboard methodically, as you said.
right.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're better at it than I am, but I've actually learned a lot of that from you. I listen to you.
I listen to you.
Unlike Chad, I actually listen when you speak.
Um, that
Damn it,
really hurt
Chad.
my feeling. Okay, I'm just here. Nobody's really talking to me. Oh, hey guys, did you want me to say something?
Hey, did you want me to say something?
No.
How about no?
How about no?
All right, JB. Why don't you? I think we're right at 9:30, aren't we?
Yeah, we did a great job.
Yeah, that was fun. I like when we have these kind of get real and just shoot the bull.
Me too. I think hopefully this was impactful to people who listen, but this is exactly what happens when we all get together and hang out after midwinter all day working or attending CE courses or doing whatever. You know, we often just sit in a lounge bar, comfortable spot, and just talk about the realities of what we're living through on a daily basis. And I think we've always found a lot of, in a safe space, a lot of comfort in knowing you're not alone, you're not struggling alone, you're not even experiencing the worst thing that's ever happened. I mean, Jeff literally turned a person blue.
Yeah.
So, you know, like we've all done some crazy stuff. Some of us are more open with sharing those details than others, but I guarantee you we've all had our struggles. And, you know, we are the after hours, after a CE course is done. That's when the real learning begins. And that's because we're learning from each other and growing in our confidence, in our expertise, in our willingness to try new things. And if nothing else, just finding safety and security and knowing that we're not alone doing this. And I think we'll close it out for this evening. Thank you for tuning in. Don't hesitate to reach out. Lots of really exciting opportunities coming up in the fall. Lots of really cool CE courses lined up. Obviously, great guests coming online. More events with DINKs live. Just really appreciate you being a part of the journey. I was going to say the other greatest mistake would be starting a podcast, but I probably shouldn't bring that up.
It's not though. You know, despite not being the most profitable thing in the world,
Correct.
you know, there's definitely something fulfilling about it. There's, you know, I feel better after we do it all the time.
It's like working out.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's one of those things you're like, oh my gosh, I got to get out there. I got to do DINKs and blah, blah, blah. We don't make a whole lot of money doing this, but you know, it's fulfilling. It's sharpening the saw. So
Well, because it used to be we only had these conversations once every 8 months, right? And
that's
now we're
right.
having it every week, which is
Yeah.
incredibly rewarding. Have a great night, DINKs.
Okay. Good night, everyone. And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession, so let's make it a great day, DINKs.